Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, presented by Toro. This episode, as always, is being recorded on the Superintendent Network, and we are joined today by Kyle Steidel, who is an absolute stud. It's funny how those are so close. It was awesome to get to talk to Kyle. He is a great guy, has a lot of awesome things to talk about and some good stories from his career. We really hope that you guys are going to enjoy him. He's somebody that Brian's known for a while, but I met down in San Diego and loved immediately, so I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy him just the same. We want to shout out all of the fans of this show, of Turf Today. We just rolled over 75,000 downloads, which for us is something that we never thought we would get to. It's amazing how much support we have from you guys and everybody around us in the industry. We want to continue to keep getting better and doing what we can. So like we always talk about, continue to share the show with everybody. Make sure you drop a rating and leave us a review, because that's how we move up the charts. That's how we get seen more. When our reels come up on Instagram and things get pushed on Instagram, do your best to try and share that stuff, because that's how people are going to find the show. We're 3 years into it now, and people are still messaging us saying, "Oh my gosh, I just found the show. I'm listening to everything back." Or people are like, "Where has this been? How come I never knew about it?" And we're doing our best to try and advertise and get it out there, and our sponsors are moving it, but it really has to happen from you guys. Do your best to get some of these episodes into people's hands that should be listening to them, whether they're people that have been in the industry for a long time who could really benefit from some fun stories and to relate to some things, or maybe somebody younger who's up and coming and learning about the industry, wants to know more and wants to know where they can fit in or where they can volunteer or how they can grow their own game. So I want everybody to know from the bottom of our heart that if you listen to the show, or you talk to us on Instagram, or we've shared something of yours, or you've bought merchandise, we appreciate that so much, and you are a big part of this community. Try and do what you can to help the greenkeepers around you. We can only grow and get better if we're all doing the right thing. Enjoy this episode. We'll see you on the other side. Turf Today is brought to you by Toro. Innovation is a word that companies use a lot, but what does it really mean? For Toro, it's about more than chasing the latest fad. It's about understanding what's important to you and helping you solve challenges you face in your day-to-day. So whether you want battery power that lasts longer or technology that works smarter, you can count on Toro to keep you ahead of the game. Visit Toro.com and see how Toro is always solving and always evolving. Morning, sir.
Good morning. Sorry, I couldn't find it.
Well, it's all good. Everybody's a little slow this morning after the late night, the big game.
Congratulations.
It could have gone either way, to be honest with you. Like, that's such good hockey. It's so good for the sport. Leads up to the Olympics. It was cool that McDavid scored the winner, but yeah, it definitely could have gone either way.
Yeah. We were texting last night. I can't remember a hockey game with that much intensity or that much anticipation for it. That was great for the game of hockey, for sure.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see the numbers in the States of the viewership, because I think there were a lot of American fans that tuned in to watch the game. So that's huge for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. No, unbelievable game. Couldn't have asked for anything better. Just game that goes into overtime. You've got the best player in the sport, hits the game winner last night. I mean, just unbelievable. At least I think he's still the best player in the league, isn't he? I mean, best player in the world, McDavid?
I would say so, yeah. Probably uncontested there, but yeah, it's exciting. It was a fun one. We woke up this morning just like, oh, geez, that was a late night.
I know. I let the kids stay up and watch it, so they struggled a little bit getting off to school this morning. But, it was worth it. What a game. What a game. That was fun.
Yeah, buddy. And we're doing a double interview this morning. Up bright and early, got two big heavy hitters coming on the show. We're pretty excited for.
Yeah. We should hesitate. We shouldn't say bright and early. 8:30 for a podcast starting. Relatively speaking, to a lot of the other start times in this industry. Not too crazy, but yeah. Us soft guys, we're corporate guys now. We don't have to make that 5 o'clock start every day.
Yeah, no, not every day. We're catching these
Not
guys on
every
their
day.
lunch breaks now, basically.
Yeah, I know. I put that video out on Instagram. I just wanted to make sure everyone saw, the 3:30 on the clock as I was driving to the airport. That was great.
Making it
Uh,
happen.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Still trying to recover from that.
That was a bit of a down and back for you, right? You were down there for 3 days.
Yeah, yeah. I got home a little earlier than anticipated. I originally had Monday through Thursday scheduled, but then the project on Wednesday wrapped up a little early, so was able to change flights and got home about midnight, a little after midnight, Wednesday night, Thursday morning. So had kind of a bonus day yesterday to knock a bunch of stuff out. Got some packages delivered. Some guys ordered some of the new sweatshirts and whatnot. So got some stuff buttoned up that I wasn't anticipating having a whole ton of time to get done. But yeah, those bonus days are always nice, aren't they?
That's huge. Yeah. And
Yeah.
especially you get to come home. Are you guys still dealing with the snow there?
Yeah, we've got a little bit. Clearly not as much as you guys. What do you have? Would you say 20 some inches?
Yeah, I think we're up to almost 30 inches now. It's a joke. Can't even get out on the golf course.
Yeah. What do you think, Kyle? 30 inches of snow? How's that sound?
I'm looking forward to a little bit warmer weather here. Snow is getting pretty old quickly now.
You guys getting hit?
No, we've actually been fortunate this week. I think we were supposed to. They were calling for like a foot Thursday, but luckily we missed it. So I think we're somewhere around 24 inches for the year. So
Ooh, still pretty good.
yeah, I mean it's probably one of the coldest winters we've had at least since I've been here. Typically we'll catch a couple weeks worth of 50-degree weather, what have you. We just haven't had it, so it's been good.
What do you guys do on your course for winter maintenance? Like you have tarps on the greens, you blowing air and cutting roads and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean we're focused on some tree work. Really with the last 5, 6, 7 years now, we've been pretty heavy on the construction, especially during the off season. So, this year has been a little bit slower for us. We've been able to focus our attention more or less around the shop and getting after some of those cleanup items that we've been lacking here over the last couple of years. So, it's kind of nice to take a deep breath before we head into a busy season 25.
And now it's time for another installment of Ask the Agronomist, presented by the Andersons. From tee to green, goal to goal, and shoots to roots, nothing is off limits.
Ask the Agronomist, featuring Ben Pease from the Andersons. And today's question comes in from Adam Mays. How early is too early to apply pre-emergent?
That's a good one. We get this more often than you'd think when we go to visit end users at conferences and trade shows. They're always asking about their first round. So that's on top of everybody's mind right now. When are we going to put out our round one or our, just general pre-emerge on the golf course? But yeah, going too early can be just as bad of a option as going too late. So if we go out too early, we're starting that window of how long that herbicide is going to be active right then. So typically we're going after crabgrass, which crabgrass germinates at about 55 degrees Fahrenheit soil temperature, not air temperature, but soil temperature. So if you put that fertilizer plus herbicide out at 35 degrees soil temp, and it takes a month between that application and the soil to reach 55 degrees, you've lost a month of control. So you're going to need to potentially reapply some herbicide sooner than you thought. So yeah, too early is just as bad as going too late, but try to hit that window, if you are able, of high 40s, low 50s soil temp, Fahrenheit, of course, for your crabgrass pre-emerge applications. And so anything over 40, sure, because we could get a really good spike in temperatures quickly. So anything before it hits 40 is probably too early.
My follow-up question to that would be if you felt like you went a little bit too late, is there something you can do to help boost things?
Yeah, so there's typically two common crabgrass pre-emerge herbicides that we use. We're either using dithiopyr, which is known as Dimension, or we're using prodiamine, which is Barricade. If you are having to make your pre-emerge application a little later than you had intended, then we usually tell people to move towards dithiopyr or dimension because there's some slight post-emerge control when you're using that chemistry. So if you do have even some people will do 2 rounds of pre-emerge, then the first round can be either dithiopyr or prodiamine. But if we come back around a little later, or if you don't get to your first application until later, you're going to use fertilizer plus dimension or fertilizer plus dithiopyr as your secondary option.
Beautiful. I love it. Thanks again to Ben Pease for another great installment of Ask the Agronomist, presented by the Andersons.
I kind of threw you in right there with the snow talk. So how you doing, man? Welcome.
Good. No, appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. All fully recovered from San Diego and all that fun stuff out there?
Man, I got to tell you that I don't know what it was about this trip. Maybe it's because I'm just getting older and older, but that time difference really killed me. I mean, it took me probably a good 3-4 days just to get back to feeling normal. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's always tough going west and then coming back home to the East Coast and trying to adjust back to that time difference and waking up a little earlier again and all that. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, that, and for some reason I thought going to bed at 11 o'clock at night was a good idea. So that never
2 o'clock Eastern time that you're used to. Yeah. And then you come home to 3 young kids and all that craziness at home. So
yeah, that didn't change a thing. Yeah.
The show's a bit of a double-edged sword. You want to have fun, you want to stay out and party, but then again, it's like, well, I'm away from the family. I can sleep. I got my own bed. Like it's tough to kind of pick and choose what you do. So
yeah, I mean, it's a time where you get to catch up with old friends, what have you. So you obviously want to capitalize on that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you get back, and it's not like the kids have been patient for you to come back either. So basically, as soon as you get home, it's Dad, let's go play, let's do something, yada yada yada. So it was fun.
You have any highlights stand out to you from your time in San Diego?
I had a couple good classes. Really for me, the thing that I enjoy most about it is just getting together with old friends, right? And whether you're sitting in the class together or, catching up for a soda after classes, and, the networking events are always a good time. So, I mean, that's the biggest highlight for me is getting to catch up with everybody and, talk about their season, talk about what's going on, whether it's work or personal lives, what have you. That's probably what I enjoyed most about it.
Right on. Well, it was really cool to meet you in person. We had a fun night the first night we were there downtown, and a lot of cool stories, which we'll have to dig into a few once we get along here. But take us back to growing up and getting into greenkeeping.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised. Turf was something that I always was intrigued in. Right, I think when I was 12 years old, my brother actually got his license suspended when he was 16 for reasons I won't disclose. But, he and I took care of some like baseball fields together. So it was like a summer that I'll always remember. But that was the only way he was allowed to drive, right? It was to and from work. So, he'd go down there, and whether he did anything or not, it was just a means of him getting to drive again. So, I would tag along, and, I think we were making $4 or $5 under the table at the time. But anyway, that's sort of how I really started to get into turf. Now, as I navigated through the rest of my life, at that time, golf course management wasn't even something I understood or even knew about. Matter of fact, it wasn't even until, I think I was a senior in high school and I was looking at, summer jobs and what I wanted to do. And, my cousin, he runs a flooring company and as a carpenter, and I was considering going to work for him. And again, my brother was working at a golf course, and he basically was just telling me, he's like, you got to try this out. It's so much fun. It's early mornings, which at the time, like, I couldn't be further opposite of a morning person. The boss called me, actually, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I was waking up, what's going on? Why is somebody calling me at 7? And he offered me, basically was telling me what the job entailed. And, my brother had worked there. So I was like, oh, that's great. Sounds awesome. So, it's something that, I tried, and really just after probably the first week or two, I just fell in love with. I mean, whether it was, getting to cut cups right around those early mornings. We did a lot of night mows, especially during the summer when it really got hot. Yeah, that's something that like I was the first to volunteer for. Really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. Throw in the headphones and just sort of tune out for the night. And it was me and another guy. So, golf certainly started to tailor off at that time of the day, and really became like a peaceful part of the day that I enjoyed being on the golf course.
So if you volunteered for the night mows, does that mean you got to sleep in a little bit? Was that kind of your incentive behind that?
We got half days. Yeah. So got to sleep in a little bit more, that following morning and come in at lunch or whatever it was. So, yeah.
Nice. Where did you start? Who'd you work for?
So it was a 27-hole municipal course. It was part of the Cincinnati Recreation Commission. I think they had 5 or 6 golf courses, and superintendent was actually an alumni of the same high school that I went to. And, he went through the Rutgers program. So, as I started to show interest into this, he was sort of laying out some different options for me in terms of school. And so, yeah, I mean, he was a big component of me moving on. And, ironically, I went up to visit Columbus. It was a Ohio State Penn State game. And I had a couple buddies from high school that, they all lived together in a house and were having a party, and went up there. And I just remember, going up there and just being completely flawed with the total environment. I mean, not just the party, obviously that was a fun time, but, just the support of the Buckeye Nation was incredible. And I remember coming home and, at the time I was at the University of Cincinnati. I wasn't really sure, what I wanted to do. I was kind of back and forth on majors, and wasn't really invested in what I really wanted to do. And it just, those two things sort of clicked for me. I mean, it was, fell in love with working on a golf course. Ohio State just seemed like, would be a heck of a time to be a part of. So, that following year, I transferred up to Ohio State, and I was fortunate to land a part-time job, just a seasonal employee at Muirfield Village. Really, really eye-opening experience for me, from coming from a 27-hole municipal course to, a high-end operation like Muirfield.
So going back to Ohio State, do you have any good memories from being at school, working turf? Maybe something with Michael Keefe?
Yeah. Ohio State working turf. I mean, honestly, it was, during the memorial, trying to manage progressing in my career with working at Muirfield and hosting the memorial, and then, still trying to hang on to having fun as a college student. I mean, I had a lot of, let's say, up all night, go to work, do what we needed to do at work, come back home, and then crash in the afternoon, kind of a thing. So, those two sort of experiences for me, really, really sink in as we talk about, Ohio State and Muirfield.
So talk about that transition. You mentioned going from 27-hole municipal golf course, and then all of a sudden going into Paul Atshaw's regime there. What was that eye-opening experience like for you?
You're familiar with the term drinking through a fire hose. I think my first day, they were spray hawking fairways, or we were spray hawking fairways.
Not just approaches, just fairways.
Yeah, it was fair. It was our annual embark spray, our infamous embark spray. But I remember, like, they're sitting here telling me about it, and I was gonna help with being a hose man, what have you. And, I'm all confused because I'm staring at, like, 3 or 4 ride-on sprayers, like, like the Jake Gargis was a superintendent at the time. Like, Jake, I don't know anything here, right? But we got ride-on sprayers over there. Why don't we use those? And then, basically puts his hand on my shoulder. He says, "Easy, grasshopper. You'll learn in time." So, that pretty much set the tone right there and then, that, kind of fall in line and learn from what we're doing. So it was good. Eye-opening experience for sure.
Did they pull the side stretcher routine on you too?
Fortunately, I didn't fall victim to that trick. I've seen it happen a few times. I was listening to Tyler's interview, and I know that one all too well. But fortunately, I was able to escape that one. Can't say that I escaped anything else, but
It sounds like there's a lot that goes on there. Do you have any good memories from, being a young lad working at Muirfield?
Oh man, so many good memories. I mean, it's there's always the guys. We all work so hard, right? And at times could get rather intense. But I think the one thing we were really good about was making it light or keeping it light and having fun when we could. And one of a particular instance, I won't disclose whose name it was. I remember Rob Frederick again was an assistant at the time, and he's got a way about him of pulling tricks off, even though people know that he's the trickster, right? There was all of a sudden like a sort of a panic radio call that we had a big pond leaking. Somebody needs to get over there quickly, and sure enough, there was a fellow intern was right there. Falls right into it, plugs in his quick coupler, and you have half the staff on either side of the pond just staring out. And here he is with the hose, which was our irrigation reservoir, by the way, just trying to fill the reservoir with a hose. So it's just like those little things that sort of stick with you and just make you laugh as you look on.
So you got started on baseball fields, and I see the baseball bat behind you there and everything. Did you ever consider sports turf? Was that something that you thought about when you were going up through the ranks?
It was. I grew up playing baseball, really loved the sport. Grew up playing golf. But once I got into turf, once I started working on the golf course, I really, really enjoyed my time on the golf course. And there was so much to learn. There's so many different dynamics to managing a golf course. Not that there's not with baseball fields, because certainly there is. But, it's just something that I sort of fell in love with. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And, once I got exposed to tournament golf, it was get out of the way. This is what I want to do. And, I developed tunnel vision pretty quickly.
It's what is it about that intensity that really drives you and kind of sucked you in?
The team aspect. I mean, you wake up at whether it's 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, whatever it is, and you're working. I think, that first tournament, I think I worked like 120 hours or something crazy like that. And I just remember being like dog tired, and the guys around me, all were in the same boat, but we still managed to make it fun. A lot of fun doing what we were doing, whether it was mowing greens, I think is what I did in my first tournament. But that real camaraderie and understanding that the efforts that we were putting forward was being showcased on a national/international level. That you'd go in from the morning assignments, turn on the TV, and then bam, there you go. Everything that you've done in the morning collectively as a team is on a show. And, I was a big Tiger Woods fan at that time. He was really blowing up. I was totally enamored with just the prestigious of it all.
Here we are, 2025. You guys are going to host at the Capes Valley the BMW Championship. So take us through that process. I know it's only February. Tournament is in August, I believe. So take us through your process and kind of getting all ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. We hosted it back in 2021, and beyond having that, we had a list of what I would say improvements, and both from the club side of it, the PGA Tour side of it, and even our architecture team with Fazio Design. I mean, we all sort of collaborated on a plan of, okay, well, we want to improve. What do those improvements mean? So 2023, the fall of 23, we took on a pretty extensive renovation. We rebuilt all 18 greens on the golf course, regrassed all of our fairways, put drainage in. We put in the precision air subsurface technology. So a pretty real extensive project. I think we even rerouted a couple holes. And so, that was more or less something that, okay, here we are looking at the 2025 event, because at the time we were discussing 25 being the next event. What can we do now that's, both going to be make the golf course maybe a little bit more competitive from the tour's aspect of it. How do we restore certain aspects of the property from the Fazio's vision, and then from the membership side, obviously, how do we make it a very enjoyable experience for them? So That was more or less the idea of the 23 renovation. Now, fast forwarding, to 25, here we go. 24 was a season of growing and sort of planning for what we might see in 25. And, now it's, pretty much here. I mean, I know it's February, but, we're starting to pull together all the support from our vendors, putting together the team of volunteers, from different courses throughout the country. And then how do we make that experience, the best that we can for those guys as well. So, right now, sort of the planning and organizing of getting the team together. And then as we navigate here through the season, obviously, how do we start conditioning the golf course, both for the membership in a sustainable way that's going to give us a really good product, come August.
Talk about the renovation, and was there any lessons learned, anything you do differently, any advice for people that might be getting ready to go through the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think I've learned way more about trucking than I ever cared to.
Getting to open your own business then with all the lessons learned.
Yeah. I can't stress the importance of delegating to the team, right? I think one of the biggest successes outside of the renovation itself is the team buy-in. Everybody had their part. So, in advance of obviously understanding what the scope of work is, but also how does the team integrate into that project itself. And so, we had so many different aspects. I think at one time, 7 different contractors. So, you have 7 different contractors that, they all sort of have their sort of way of doing things. And, how do you manage that into getting a similar outcome, was certainly one feat. And the one way we combated all of that is we had an assistant basically charged with, with that individual contractor, right? So you go from construction, having somebody delegated, to making sure that communication is sort of fluid between all parties. And then also, the execution part of the growing. We had somebody that sort of charged that, the execution of that. So I think the biggest takeaway is being clear to the team, being very, very willing to delegate, responsibilities. I think that was probably the biggest part of our success in that construction project. In terms of contractors, I mean, no different than managing people, but understanding, how to navigate your way around different personalities. When you get, 7 different, contractor superintendents that all have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, understanding how to navigate and get the best out of each group, collectively as one team. I mean, one of the things I thought we did really well, we had a morning meeting where everybody sat down. It was big, very important to me. I understood where everybody was, on the property to start the day and what their intentions were throughout the day. And then, basically it made it easy for us to track day by day what was going on with that project. So, so many moving parts. It's easy to get overwhelmed, but, any fashion you can and slow it down, I think is probably the biggest part of it is just in your mind, you're racing 1,000 different places, and just understand that, certain aspects are covered by your assistants. And that way it frees up your time to be, pretty much everywhere at once, or anywhere you want to be at once.
Well, there's certainly a lot of delegating in a project like that. How do you guys decide, who has the final say, and how are you kind of the boss in that way? How do you make that work?
It's the back to that, sort of ego or chip on your shoulder, with different contractors. Everybody sort of sees how they do it, or how they want to see it done. I think we sort of nipped that right in the butt right out of the gate, is that, we're all in this for one common goal, right? We want the best end result that we could possibly get. And how we get there obviously is going to change from day to day, but we had the architect and an on-site guy. We had myself, basically leading the charges. And if it came to a point of contention or, we just weren't getting what we wanted out of somebody, there's basically somebody right there to fill their shoes. So, it was either you could get with the program or, we'll find somebody that'll get it done the way that we're looking for. And you hate to be that cutthroat, but when it comes down to it, it only took one or two instances of that happening. And everybody sort of fell in line.
Going back to the tournament, you've obviously hosted several going back to the Memorial and then the 21 BMW. Talk about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that happens. I mean, obviously you're focused on getting a great golf course, but obviously there's a lot of legwork behind the scenes that's not even golf course related. Talk about all the things that have to kind of fall into place to make this event successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it just from our operation alone, and we can get to the outside operations in itself, but our operation alone is, we know where we want to be at the end of the event, right? And what does it take to get there? It's having the right number of personnel, whether it's volunteers or staff members. We got to make sure that each person has the right equipment to get there. So making sure that we have enough equipment that operates at a high level as well in the way we see it. So, we rely on a lot of our equipment vendors to help us out from that aspect. We got to feed all the volunteers. We got to house all the volunteers. So like all of those sort of things that, that need to be in play for when people show up is, we're trying to figure all that out right now. That's something that, hate to say that it's sort of easy to think about, but being that I've done it enough, it's sort of like, okay, I have an idea of what I need to do. My biggest focus right now, like I stated before, is, really how do I make the experience, not just for the volunteers, but also for our staff from this point forward? How do I make that the best that I can? And, certainly going to other events, like I'll be going to the Memorial this year. I think it's their 50th anniversary of hosting the event. See how they do it. Or I went out to the BMW at Castle Pines, understanding how Scotty did it. There's always like things that you pick up on, that sort of in the back of your mind, you put like that looks like it worked really well. People really enjoyed that. And I think the biggest aspect for me, is having, basically everyone involved walk away from this event, really with a good taste in their mouth. It was a very good experience. And I think I've learned a lot of lessons in the past of what we've done right, what we've done wrong. And it's sort of helped me formulate where we are today.
It sounds like you're pretty organized and be a fun tournament to volunteer at. I wanted to ask you now, you guys have come through this renovation in 23. Caves Valley is going to be on national TV and all over the world in the BMW Championship. So is there anything you're excited for people to see? The changes of the golf course or anything that's going to be kind of different?
Yeah, I mean, we have some short par fours, particularly the golf course. We have some short par fours that we've changed up that are they're going to be a little bit more challenging than what they saw the last time. In particular, our fifth hole, was a very short par four last time. I think it was like 330 yards total. And while we lengthened it by, maybe 20, 30 yards, we've sort of reorganized where the hole sits. So I'll be really excited to see how that golf hole plays, because it's definitely a lot more risk than there was before. So I think those that understand what the golf course was in 2021 coming out in 2025, certainly looking for like that golf hole specifically, and seeing how much more of a challenge that'll be to the tour players.
Turf Today is also brought to you by Standard Golf. And setting the standard in golf course accessories since 1910 is not just a tagline, but it's also the responsibility at Standard Golf that they bring to work each day. They're the only manufacturer with a full line of products, from maintenance to course setup, practice range, driving range, and turf growth. Check them out on Instagram at Standard Golf CO to stay up to date with everything they have going on.
How you feeling about the maturity of the golf course and the new grasses, because you guys reseeded fairways and greens. How you feeling? Is that going to be ready to hold up to the intensity of maintenance that you guys put into that for the next couple months?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm cautiously optimistic, right? I think that there was a lot of things I saw on 24 that gave me a lot of confidence going into 25. There's certain things that we're going to have to tweak during 2025 as well, but we'll take those as they come, right? I think the one thing I've learned and from the guys that I've talked to that have done it, 3, 4, 5 years now, is that each year things tend to get better and better and better. So I think we've got the benefit of that on our side, and who knows what Mother Nature will bring us, right? I mean, it's the Mid Atlantic, it's a tournament in August, and I think the best thing we can do is focus on having a healthy golf course, and if that means we've got to compromise a little bit on green speed or what have you, in the month of July, then so be it. I think we have a very supportive club here. And they want to see, Caves Valley shine in a very bright light, and as do we. So I think that they're willing to overlook those sort of shortcomings of we'll call it the month of July to ensure that we have a very good and successful event, and we'll give it right back to them come this fall as well.
So a little follow up there, and along those lines, I'm glad you mentioned it, because you are in Baltimore, Mid Atlantic, humidity is through the roof. Talk about your agronomic planning. I'm assuming you probably start at that event and work your way backwards. Just talk about that process of your practices and how you put your season together based on that event.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to try to peak during that week, right? So whether it's fertility, whether it's moisture management, all those sort of things you want to be able to put into your control as much as you possibly can. And that would be part of the reason why we utilize that precision air system, to allow us to either suck some moisture down or blow some air to dry them out a little bit more. But as we look at fertilizer applications or wetting agent applications, it's the timing's probably the biggest aspect of that. So we want to be sure that if we're to fertilize in the spring, that it's sort of fizzling out before we head into that tournament week. And then we'll supplement with like sprays, what have you, just to get us, a little bit more dialed in as we head into that week. So I think, that's another aspect that we need to learn, because there's some things that we did last year that, I didn't necessarily like for this year. So there's a little bit of that learning curve. And then again, how does the golf course react to the changes that we've decided to make in our agronomic plan? And those are sort of tweaks that we'll make throughout the season.
Kyle, I wanted to ask you about playing the course, through the renovation. Is that something you've done?
Yeah, I mean, I think I played 27 holes, 36 holes, somewhere in there. I mean, I played 9 holes here and there. I played 18, I think, all of about once in the entire year. So I think it's important to play the golf course. Certainly my game is not to the level of really probably our membership would even have. But it at least gives you that perspective from a player standpoint on what they're sort of looking at, right? I mean, I look at, again, getting back to number 5 and how that might play. And, the way I have it mapped out in my mind, if I were to be a good player, right, is one thing, but to go out and play it and see, well, if I hit it from this angle, how does that firmness, how does that green speed sort of affect this green? Because I could see on this golf course, there's probably going to be 2 scenarios where we're going to have to slow green speeds down for certain pin locations. So getting out and playing, that's certainly, I think, important to understand that we're likely to see those scenarios as we head into, not just the tournament, but even during average play, right? I mean, where we might double cut those certain greens or those select greens, we might single cut, even if that means it's during the season or, our invitational, whatever.
You mentioned, empowering the team and different assignments and stuff. How do you go about preparing your team members for future success? Obviously, I know recently, Sam's moved along, Keaton's moved along. How do you get those guys ready for that next step?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, getting them to see the golf course the way that I see it, right? It's not just, I think it's easy to get caught up in, okay, if I'm scheduling, the day's events. So, I obviously want to see that those tasks get done, the way that I see them getting done, but also, opening up your eyes to a broader view, right? If I'm an assistant, driving down number one and I see fairway mowers, I'm not just driving by, right? I'm going down to the fairway. I'm checking, okay, how are we, how are the grass clippings, right? What's the cut look like, after the fact? What's the moisture content look like? So there's a lot of, probably a list of 100 different things you could be thinking about all at once. And it's more or less getting them to think that way, as opposed to sort of having that tunnel vision of, okay, I've scheduled it, now let's just go see to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to. The other thing is, and especially these last 5-6 years, because we've been so busy, whether it's been construction or the last event, there's so much to observe, right? So I mean, as much as I sit down with these guys and talk to them about, what to look out for, what have you, I mean, the other end of it too is they've merely got to observe what's going on as well. I mean, I think a lot of learning is best by failing, or something just simply not going right. I think that's probably the best teacher in itself, and giving these guys a little bit of rope to, whether it's something not to go right or fail, what have you. Obviously want to mitigate that as much as we can, but I think giving them a little bit of that rope really goes a long way in helping them understand that, okay, well, this didn't go right. What could we have done better? And that in itself is such a teacher. And sitting down talking about that with them, I think, is a very good thing. And I think the other aspect of it is these guys like Sam and Keaton understood where they wanted to be. Certainly understanding what your end goal is helps the road to get there, right? And it helps me as a manager to help them get there, right? And I think one of the things I started to do over the last year or so is put this stuff in writing, right? When I sit these guys down, let's talk about a 5-year plan. Let's talk about a 10-year plan, right? What do you want to be? Where do you see, Sam, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Right? Well, I want to be a superintendent at a PGA Tour golf course. Well, perfect. Let's talk about what that road looks like for you. And so I think as a manager of those people, you sort of tailor, I don't want to say tailor the programs that we have in place, but tailor like how you address certain situations with that individual, right? If somebody comes into me and, look, I don't want to be a superintendent at Caves Valley. I want to be, superintendent at a nice country club in the area. Well, that's perfect. I can certainly help you get there, but let's also start talking about, well, maybe Caves Valley just isn't the best place for you. But how can I help you out in that certain situation? We've had a couple of those, but generally, I think we have so much to offer here in a club like this that guys sort of see the benefit of it and how that could help them in a lot of different avenues.
It's a big balance thing, right? Like, you're the boss, you got to be the boss, lay the hammer down, but at the same time, you want to help these guys, you want to be there to be a mentor and, help them with their day-to-day life and stuff like that. So it's a really tough balance to go through. I've always thought it's one of the hardest jobs, just like being like a pro coach, to be able to have those personal relationships, but at the same time, I'm the man, what I say goes, and to kind of have that. So, talk a little bit about that balance.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the aspect of getting them to buy into, you got to give them a little bit of skin in the game, right? So, we talk about, the next day, for instance, and I'm a big component of, I don't like when people are quiet, right? So if we're sitting here talking about something, I expect you to be involved in the conversation, because if you're quiet, that means you're disengaged. And if you're disengaged, then, it rubs me the wrong way. And I think the guys have come around to that, and I don't mean that in a contentious way. I just mean simply that this is a platform, right? We sit down at the end of the day and just talk, whether it's the day's events or the next day's events, what have you. I want to hear from their aspect and what they're seeing, right? Because that sort of helps us tailor what we're going to do that next day or how we do something that next day. And I think it gets them to, one, to buy into what we're doing in one aspect of it, but also, take a little bit of ownership in what's going on. And if they see something that's, not going well or what have you, to feel empowered enough to step in and make a correction. And I try to harp on these guys that, like, this group, as we sit down, right, if you see something, please say something, right? The last thing we want to do is assume something's going to work its way out or it's going to go well. And then, at the end of it, it just doesn't. And then we all look like fools. So, I'm just a big component of these guys, just communication on what we can continue to get better at.
So your leadership style, I know you're a big Jocko guy as well. What's maybe your favorite philosophy or your one big point that you've kind of brought in from some of his teachings?
That extreme ownership book was great, right? And I think the biggest takeaway is it's one of those things to, take ownership. In this particular instance, we'll talk about a failure, right? Take ownership of the failure, like you as a leader, right? But understand that there's still accountability to be had amongst the team, right? Why did we fail? What went wrong? It's not that we're sitting here blaming, one person that something happened, but the fact of the matter is something went wrong. How do we address it, and keeping those that were involved just accountable of that aspect? I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I've really had as whether it's extreme ownership or, David Goggins is another one that I've sort of gotten into, which, he's a very intense human being from what I can tell. That's sort of something that I enjoy to read and I try to integrate into my management style. The other thing too is get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I think, like I just stated before, I think the biggest opportunities to learn are when things aren't going well. And so it's easy to get down on yourself, especially, here when it's, 95 degrees outside, 95% humidity, what have you, and things aren't going well. Sort of trick your mind into not necessarily enjoying it, but at least embracing that, this is a learning opportunity. And I think through my career over the years, I've felt like the most growth was when things weren't going well. And honestly, I think I formed some of the best relationships that I've had during those times as well. I mean, what a powerful thing to reach out to somebody and ask for help, right? I mean, if it's, whether it's a superintendent or if, I have a personal problem or whatever it is, reaching out to that individual and, hey, what do you think? Hey, do you mind coming down to look at what I've got going on, or, whatever it is. I think entrusting, sort of somebody to help you out in a scenario really, really builds a strong bond between the two of you.
We talk a lot about teamwork and leadership and balance here, and got to ask you about your home life, and all the kids and stuff, and what's that like, and how do you kind of balance everything with what you have going on?
Chaos, right? Embrace the chaos.
Work's a bit of a vacation for you, isn't it?
I'm fortunate to get to go to, work and do something that I love. I mean, my wife's got the real job, right? I mean, it's, 98 hours a week probably isn't even sufficient for what she does. But in any event, I think it's, I'm a big family person. I absolutely adore my boys. I got 3 boys, 6, 4, and 2. I'm blessed to have a beautiful wife that, leads those little munchkins. And, I call them heathens because they just act like complete animals. But I think it's important to, sort of see your life from 30,000 feet above. And again, some of the coolest things about this industry, and particularly like having a network, is, you reach out to guys about, whether they have a tournament, whether they do a project or whatever, much like you guys just asked me, what are some things you could do better? What would you do differently next time? Right. And so as I look to some of my mentors, it's like, okay, well, you guys have been in this for 30, 40 years or 20 years, whatever it is. They've got kids, from a personal standpoint, what are some things you would do differently? And I think, I've really taken that to heart as, being a good dad is probably most important to me. So getting the opportunity to bring those boys to work and what a time, doing a project renovation or a big renovation on the golf course. I mean, I got pictures of, I got a 3-year-old at the time. He's getting ready to turn 5 now, but he's in a D6 dozer with me pushing dirt. And I'm sitting here like, kid, you have no idea. You just hit the jackpot, right? It's taken me 35 years to get to this point. You are 3-year-old just pushing dirt like it's no other, right? So I think it's, capitalizing on those opportunities to, really get your kids involved with what you're doing. Because, now they see dad's work as like a place to have fun, right? So they love coming out. And, I can't wait to bring them out for the tournament because I think that'll be fun. And I think just balancing the two, balancing sort of a subjective term, right? It's something, it's different to each person, but, I think just involving your family is a big aspect for me. So it helps me balance the two of them, right? Obviously I try to be here as much as I can, try to be home as much as I can. And those two worlds don't always sort of see eye to eye, but, certainly take advantage of the times that I can. Whether it's bringing the family here or spending some time at home.
Talk about the importance of that support system. How important is it for you to have a supportive wife, at home and allowing you to kind of do what you do?
Yeah. Whew. I mean, you see it, right? You wouldn't be able to do what you do on a daily basis without the support of Lauren. And I'm no different, right? I think Lindsay and I met at a time in my life where like I was, and I still am, but very career driven. I don't even think I was an assistant at the time at Muirfield. So I was, working those 100-hour work weeks, 90-hour work, whatever it was. But so she understood it, and she understood that I had a vision for not just my life, but our lives as we built a family. And she really bought into that. She proved it, right, by uprooting our lives from Columbus and moving out here to Baltimore. And, and then we started a family. And I think that, really she, as tough as it can be sometimes, she understands that, it's a means of us providing a great life for our boys. And I think, moreover, it gives her that sense of why we do it. And so without her support, obviously I couldn't do a damn thing, to be honest. I mean, probably couldn't even, she'd probably come out here and tell me what to do on the golf course if she had the opportunity.
My wife's constantly coming into my office telling me what I need to do. I get it. So with your boys, is this industry something you would encourage them to get into?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, I think I'll be supportive of whatever they want to do. Certainly I want to expose it to them because it's been such a big part of my life, both professionally and personally. But, I think they're definitely going to get their time of working on the golf course. I think probably one of my biggest things is they'll learn how to drive vehicles here. They'll learn how to mow greens. They'll learn how to pitch divots. I mean, they'll start off by digging ditches and what have you. I mean, I got some pretty fond moments during the construction project where they're guys are putting in irrigation and they're just running around. Taught them to say "no rocks" in Spanish. So
Nice.
They're going around saying "no rocks, no rocks." It's just funny stuff like that. So they already come. Like I have a set of tools in my golf cart. So when they do come, we'll go rake a bunker, or, do something that the guys are doing. We'll go do it with them for a little bit. And so I think, they'll definitely get exposure. Whether they decide to take it on as a career, certainly we'll see how that comes.
Awesome. Was there anything that you specifically wanted to talk about today, Kyle? I know we've been grilling you with a lot of questions about yourself and career and everything, but is there anything that you kind of
Great.
wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I think, and looking at guys getting into this industry, I think if I look back at my career, I think the important thing is having more or less a vision for what you want to be, right? It's not that, you have to be a superintendent at, a high level club or whatever that means, or even by a certain age. It's just simply gives you a target to work towards, and then really hitching your wagon to a mentor. That's probably the biggest part of my success in my career was simply from having a great mentors, right? I mean, I think in a particular situation of hosting an event, so much of my network was built off of exposure to their network, right? So I think understanding where you want to be is a big aspect of it. Put it in writing, I think, is even bigger. I talked a little bit about what I've done with my guys here, what we're starting to do, and it brings to light sort of realities of what that end goal might be. And as you navigate towards the end goal, right, certainly things are going to change. There's going to be challenges that you might not have seen come about, but getting back to that plan more or less just helps you navigate your way to where you want to be. So I think having a little bit of vision for yourself is big, and what a time to come into this industry too, right? I mean, there's so many opportunities all the way, all over the place, whether it's assistant or, spray tech, irrigation tech, whatever it is. And the balance of life, I think, is a big topic as well. But, what I'm getting at is simply that there's so much opportunity to capitalize on it, but don't lose sight of the importance of, sticking at a place for 3-4 years, especially once you graduate from college, and getting the experience of what a mentor can really do for you.
So you've mentioned mentors several times. Tell us, who are some of your mentors or your peers that you're reaching out to on a regular basis, and what are some of the things that you've picked up from those mentors?
Yeah, I mean, I think Paul B. Ladshaw, big one. He's somebody I worked for I think 7 or 8 years or so, and certainly has shaped me both professionally and as I got to work under him as his unit too. Learned a lot of personal things as well. I talked about certain things in life you would do differently, what have you. Some of that comes from him. So he's a big one. Chad Mark, obviously got to work for him in his first year there at Muirfield. He taught me a lot, more or less about seeing a golf course in a different aspect and how to have fun with it. Right. I think that was, if anyone's worked for Chad, I mean, he's a big, he's very serious about what he does, but he does it in a manner of which, it's sort of fun. Right. I mean, he's got, I think, a nickname for pretty much everything that surrounds him. So definitely made a big impression on me as well as I sort of navigated my way onto a superintendent. The guys that I worked with under at Muirfield, Matt Powell, Rich McIntosh, Lucas Lowndes, Chris Flick, even guys that moved on from there. I mean, there's so much to take away from guys and their stories, and it's just take in as much as you can from guys that have been where you are before would be my biggest takeaway. There's always something to learn, and I think it's sort of crazy how willing these guys are to tell their story to you as well. I mean, it's that, again, getting back to the superintendent show, right? The biggest thing is getting to sit down with these guys and just listen to old stories, right? John Zimmer's talking about when he worked for the old man at Congressional is probably one of the coolest stories that anyone's ever heard. So I just that kind of stuff I get enamored with.
Yeah, there's some great stories that go around at those parties. It's a lot of fun. You're not supposed to talk work at those, so I don't know if that's technically considered work, telling work stories or not. But No, that's good. So you mentioned, I mean, some of the peer network and all that as you're going through the renovation, as you're going through the tournament, and you've already kind of mentioned it before, but I mean, just how much do you rely on those guys? And how much, you mentioned going around different courses. I'm sorry, I'm kind of compiling a question in my mind as I'm sitting here
Yeah,
talking.
you're good. You're good.
How important is it to go to their events, watch how they operate a tournament, how they manage a renovation or whatever, and then how important is it for them to have them on site when you're kind of going through the same thing and get them either as a, almost as a mental therapist to kind of walk you off the ledge. Just talk about that kind of relationship with those guys and how vital that is to everything you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I love most about the relationships I've built with all those guys, and certainly I'm sure I've missed some people that I don't mean to offend, but in any event, I think in working with these guys, the thing I enjoy most about it is you're going to get their honest opinion, right? Whether you like it or not, they're going to tell you the way it is, and try not to operate with emotion, right? But whether it's supportive or, hey, there's things you can do better, so on and so forth, you're going to get that feedback, which is crucial, right? I mean, it's so easy to get tunnel vision during hosting an event or during a project, whatever, that it's easy to miss things, right? It's easy to miss things, whether it's on the peripherals or something that's going on the other side of the property with staff or what have you. Having those guys come visit is always it's a breath of fresh air. Not in just a professional aspect, but also like, kind of relaxes you. It keeps the morale high for you yourself, because it's easy to just get caught up in what's going on. So, and then going to visit their tournaments, I'm sure it's similar for them that, when I'm there, whether I'm driving a tractor with the light on the back of it, placing it somewhere, or helping a team rake a bunker, or, help a team spray hockey green and dark, whatever it is, right? I think there's a very open support system with these guys that, whatever it takes, whatever you need them to do, they're willing to be there and share their feedback with you.
I'm glad you mentioned the honesty and, some of the comments. What is that fine line, and how difficult is it to tell a peer that sucks? You guys need to do better. I mean, obviously that's probably a stretch, but what is that fine line? I always have a hard time if I'm going to visit a golf course and I see something. Obviously, I'm not a superintendent, so coming from me is something different. But how difficult is it for you to tell someone like, hey, that's an area that you could potentially improve?
I think it's all a matter of the way you phrase it, right? I think also too, you're close enough to these guys, and you've worked alongside of them so much that, like I said, they're not necessarily worried about whether it hurts your feelings or not. But I think, if I was to go into, say a superintendent that I knew but didn't necessarily know as well as some of these guys, right? I think it's, hey, I know you got a million things going on, but what do you think about this over here? I think phrasing, the way you phrase it, the way you address it is probably the biggest aspect of not offending somebody, because it's tough to, as they're pouring their heart and soul into this, and, their staff as well, to sit there and point something out, especially, depending on what it is exactly. Right. So I think, just more or less how you navigate telling that person, try to do it in the softest manner possible. But, if they're seeking your feedback, I'd say likely they're open to what you have to say. So that'll be my aspect of it.
Yeah, certain guys you can be very blunt with, but yeah, some others you got to dance around a little bit.
You got to pick your spots.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I mean, certainly don't want to set them off either, right? So you kind of got to play that, because there's certain emotions that run high during those weeks. But in any event, like I said, I think if they're seeking your feedback, they're probably willing to take whatever you have to say.
I wondered if we could go back to Muirfield. There's been a lot of great stories come out about, new people, interns and stuff like that. Do you have any good stories for us?
Yeah, I mean, there's always those jokes of new guys, new interns, right? Whether it's a sod stretcher or the guy trying to fill the pond with a hose, right? I think, my personal story, this is something I was actually thinking about this morning. It was my first year, I think, Rich had just gone on to be a superintendent to Torrey, and Matt Powell had just taken the job at Dedham, and so I became Unit 2, and Paul was going on a trip to Japan, I think, to he was like a keynote speaker or what have you. And, one of the last things he told me is like, I'm going to be gone for 5-6 days, whatever it is. He's like, I expect to know what's going on, whether it's an email or what have you. So, fast forward a little bit, we're doing a drainage project on number 1. And, we have the utility marked, everything we brought in, Miss Utility to mark all the major power, so we could avoid it. And as we're digging, Miss Utility, not to call out Miss Utility here, but had missed a line. Fortunately, no one got hurt, but it was a major power line that fed the power to the clubhouse, fed the power down the road. So, this is like, I think my second month as Unit 2. So it was like an hour before a party at the club, right? So the kitchen staff's in the dark trying to prepare. The whole neighborhood's down, and I'm like at my wit's end, freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what have I just done? And so I remember going up to the clubhouse, saw Nicholas Araka, the GM, and I'm like sweating, freaking out, like, oh man, here I go, gonna kick me off the property 2 months in. And he's like, it's gonna be all right. Appreciate you coming up. And so after that, like, how am I gonna tell Paul that I did this, right? And I didn't sleep for like, I think the entire time he's back. And I'm talking to Nicholas, the GM, Larry, the pro, guys that have worked with Paul before, freaking out, and I didn't sleep that entire time he was away. And he comes back, and I remember, like, I chased him up his office. I was like, I got to tell this guy. I got to tell him. I told him. He just looks at me. He goes, okay. And I take a deep breath, and I'm like, okay. I was like, dude, I haven't slept for like a week. Your response is okay. You can't just like yell at me or whatever. He's like, no. It's like, I understand. It wasn't your fault. Yeah, I appreciate you telling me. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a breath of fresh air now, right? Probably perform on a normal level. So I think that was like one of the biggest learning curves for me. When something goes wrong, where are you, where you're at, right? Be out in front of it. So it was a good learning story. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's kind of funny looking back now. I think I was there till like midnight with the power crew as they were spliced. Yeah. And it started raining, so it got even more miserable.
So you went about a week without telling him while he was on the road. You didn't email him or anything?
Dude, that was the biggest thing. I mean, I was talking to Nicholas and Larry, and those guys were like, don't tell him till he gets back. And I'm like, well, what if he finds out before I tell him? It was such a like mental battle. And like, Lindsay, I go home and Lindsay's there. She's like, well, you just go to sleep. You're going to be fine. I'm like, you don't understand. Right.
I was going to say, I'm surprised he didn't come back. And he said, yeah, I already know. Like Nicholas already reached out to me or something.
That was my biggest fear. Yeah. So yeah, when he just said, okay, I was like, what do you mean? Okay. Right.
Yeah. You need to yell at me. Okay. I need to eat this one.
I need something more than okay. Right.
Yeah.
It was good.
Did you know anything? Did you know anything about Paul before you started working for him there?
No, to be honest,
Nothing.
other than, I understood, what he was at Muirfield. I understood a little bit about, where he came from, and then his dad, obviously. But outside of like, how he operated, what his personality was like, no, that was all on the job training, we'll call it. But yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic, Kyle. I know you got a bunch of stuff going on there. So we, again, appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us today and sharing your stories, and look forward to crossing paths this summer, man.
Yeah. I mean, bring your clubs. You guys are always welcome. Love to host you and show you what Caves has to offer. But, thanks for having me. What a fun chat we've had here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Brian, we might have to take him up on that one. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, I've spent plenty of time out there. Haven't had the opportunity to play it yet, but it is a very, very special place. So it's always a treat to go to Caves.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'd be happy to have you.
Yeah, especially during football season, every now and then swag you out with some tickets. That's an experience right there, man. The Ravens are that stadium. Honestly, I would rather go to a game a home game with the Ravens than probably any other college atmosphere. Like that
Wasn't it
experience.
electric?
Holy moly, a night game against the Bengals, whatever. I mean, it was nuts. That was a cool experience.
Yeah, I'm a Bengals fan, which is a little, I gotta watch how loud I say it around here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you do.
I'm a Ravens fan as well when they're not playing the Bengals, but that environment is probably one of the more electric stadiums to be a part of, right? I think that was awesome, and it was like that again this year. So
Oh man, it's in the tailgates there. I mean, honestly, it is, it's like a college vibe right there to a whole nother extent. It was unreal.
yeah,
Thank you.
they do a good job, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
try to make
Cool.
everybody feel a part of the team for sure.
Well, you do a great job of that. I always felt welcome every time I came in. It's a great crew. And again, I can't wait to come back for the BMW
Yeah, it'll be fun.
and hopefully before. So
Yeah, man, you got
awesome, buddy. Well,
All
thank
right.
you so much. You
Great
take care of
catching up,
yourself.
guys.
Take
Yeah.
care of those kiddos. Well see you soon.
Yeah, buddy. If we don't see you before that, good luck with the tournament.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll see you guys.
All right, take care, man. Turf Today is also brought to you by our friends at Apex 10 by Green Nature. And if you haven't heard about them yet, head over to greennature.life to see all the information you can about this amazing new product. We are also going to be doing a product giveaway, including some merchandise, between the Turf Today and Apex 10 Life account on Instagram. So give them a follow at Apex 10 Life.
Kyle's a great guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, we instantly connected when we met at the bar that night. Such a beauty. God damn, there's so many funny stories he could tell at a bar that you really can't tell on a podcast.
No, that's it.
You don't think he'd have a job after that?
No, that's we had that conversation at some of those parties. Like so many guys coming to us. Oh, you got to come tell this story. You got to come tell this story, buddy. I'm doing you a favor here. Just saying, we probably don't want to do that. We should not do a live podcast right now at the bar. That's not a good idea for anybody involved.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, great dude.
Absolutely. And he hit the nail on the head, and I think we've had this conversation pretty much with anyone when we talk about the show and the experience at the show, but just the networking, the revisiting the good times and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it truly is. It's my favorite week of the year, just getting to be around everybody and shooting the proverbial shit with everybody and just having a great time. And we get to hear some of those stories that they can't talk about on here, and it's just so much fun to be around these guys and just feed off their energy, right? I mean, because these guys perform at such a high level, and just to kind of be around that energy, it's so much freaking fun.
And the mentorship thing is so big. Like our industry, there really is a passing of the torch, because a guy like that, he gets into the industry, maybe he gets a superintendent job and does well, but it's the people that he learned from and he's taken so much from. And I think you talk to any superintendent or assistant or somebody like that in the industry right now, and they've had that person that's helped them. And now that, he's in this role, he's turning around and he's trying to help people, and he's trying to help, find jobs for people and, get people into different places. So it is a really cool passing of the torch, and we see it a lot. And Kyle's a great example.
And it doesn't only happen at those top 100 clubs, right? I mean, you hear Kyle just talked about he got his start at a municipal golf course. His superintendent there kind of helped encourage him to pursue that path. We've talked to several other guys. Chad Mark, same thing. Started at a small public golf course and had guys there that encouraged him to follow that path. And it happens at every type of facility around the country. That's the beauty of this industry, is that everyone is there to help one another. Everyone's looking out for everyone else's best interests. And, again, the fact that we get competitors that help each other out, whether it's equipment, advice, or whatever it is, it's just so unique. And that's what makes this industry so special and unique.
Yeah, I always think back to when I first started working at a course, and instantly the superintendent, grabs you and wants to work with you and wants to make you better and have you be a big part of the team. And I love that so much. It was something that made me fall in love with the industry. It's just like there's so much support. And then you
Yeah.
talk to him about how he grew up and went through it, and there was somebody there that had grabbed him and made him fall in love with it. And then you go back even further. And I remember asking that superintendent at a show one time, well, what was it like for you getting into it? And he had somebody that he would talk about and that he looked up to so much, and he got into the industry because of. So it's just a trickle effect. And if you're not able to pass it on, then this industry is not going to grow. So you got to do you got to do your best to be able to pass on all that stuff that everybody's passed on to you.
There's not been a better time to get into this industry than right now. For any young
Definitely.
people that are listening that are either, just kind of getting their start in it or on the fence about potentially getting into this business. I mean, it's such a good time. There's so many opportunities available for you. It just takes a phone call, an email, a direct message and socials or something like that. Reach out to someone that you think you might want to that's at a facility that may be of interest to you or at a level that is of interest to you. You just take the shot. It happened earlier in the year, when we were getting started with everything and we were talking a lot about volunteering at events. We heard from so many different people that listened to the show, that listened to some of our guests say, just reach out. We'd be happy to show you or to welcome you and show you what we do during a tournament and all that kind of stuff. It's no different just on a day-to-day basis. If it's something you're interested in, I talk to guys all the time that are in, one of those periods in their career where they're not sure what they want to do. And it's like, look, if you're interested in tournament experience, there are 40 some golf courses that host PGA Tour events on an annual basis. Reach out to one of them. I'm sure they'll have a spot for you, whether it's as a daily greenkeeper, just on the staff level, or as a spray tech or intern or whatever it may be. There's going to be a spot for you somewhere. If it's something you want to do, just take that step, reach out, go get that experience and see where it takes you. It's out there for you right now. There's no question.
Yeah, no, it's great advice. There's nobody that's going to hold your hand to get you started.
No.
But once you do get everything started, there's going to be a ton of people there to hold your hand to help you through everything. So just make that phone call, send that email, show that interest, and bright future ahead. Everybody, that's going to do it for us. A huge thank you to Kyle Steidel for coming on. What a great interview. It was awesome to talk to him. We also want to shout out our sponsors, the Toro Company, the Andersons, Standard Golf, and Apex 10. You guys are amazing, and we could not do this without you. The other people we couldn't do this without is you. Thank you so much for following the show, engaging with the show, sharing the show, doing things like rating and giving us reviews. We really appreciate all of the support from everybody. We want to keep growing this thing, keep it going. It's been a lot of fun, and we have a lot of awesome stuff on the horizon. So keep with us, keep sharing it, keep the positive vibes going, keep working, enjoy this industry. Like a lot of people talk about, there are dark days and there are tough times, but as long as you're able to get yourself through and keep continuing to work and keep reaching out to those right people, you are going to be just fine. So enjoy this career. Make sure you have a smile on your face when you talk about what you do, because it's very important to be proud and care about what we do in this industry. It's special. And if people don't care about it, people don't want to hear about it, then who cares? It's for us, right? See everybody next week. Keep those reels sharp and be safe.